Yeah, hello. Thanks for everyone join in today's in long weekend also. And today our speaker is Mukesh Kala. We are going to discuss on the UiPath RE framework. If you have any questions in the end of the session, he will take the question and answer session also. If you have any questions or any doubts, you can ask them. Okay, Mukesh, over to you. We can start. Good to go.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for inviting, guys. I'm sharing my screen and let me know if you are able to see my screen. I've just started
Yes,
sharing my
yes,
screen. Okay, so
yes.
I'll pull up a presentation for you guys. Okay, fine. So before getting started, guys, this is me. Thank you for hosting me, RPA Zone. Yedu for giving me this opportunity to present. My name is Mukesh Kala. I am a 3 times UiPath MVP. I am leading the daily chapter. I am a certified UiPath trainer, speaker at UiPath community, and currently working as a RPA manager for a company called Boundaryless Group. I would be happy to connect with you, all of you, in the different social media platform. So I'll quickly paste my social media details. So in case if you want to connect to me, I'm happy to connect with all of you, right? So today we have got a session where I would be covering something about robotics enterprise framework. Okay. Most of you might have been already working on the robotics enterprise framework, but the thing which I see missing is that most of us might not be aware of what exactly is that thing, why exactly it is required, and what is there something which as a developer we should know, right? So before directly going into the exact RE framework, right, for a moment, I want you guys to forget everything about RE framework, UiPath and all. We'll go to the step one, which is what exactly is a transaction. Okay. And then we'll step by step move to something which is called robotics enterprise framework. So the first thing is, which I want to explain today, is a transaction. Now, what do I mean by a transaction? Whenever I say transaction, it is the minimum amount of work, or I would say minimum amount of steps, which you need to do to complete a process or to complete a task. So for example, if I ask you that today you have to go from Hyderabad to Bangalore, so you would say that, okay, step one, I'll take a bus. Step two, I'll take the ticket in the bus. Maybe step three, I'll go to there. Step four, I might take a flight. And step six, I'll reach, right? So all these steps, whichever you do in a step-by-step manner to perform a task is called a transaction. If I talk it in technically, so for example, if I ask you that you have to read an email from a mailbox and extract some information. So reading an email and extracting the information becomes a transaction. So before you get started with any automation, at least in the robotics enterprise framework, it is important for you guys to define and make sure that what exactly is the transaction. Now there is a property of transaction, which means that once it is completed, you do not require the same transaction again. And when we talk about transaction, it is not like that transaction is only of one category. Transaction is of three types: linear, iterative, and transactional. Robotics enterprise framework is built to work on transactional. But what exactly is the transactional? Before you understand, you need to understand what exactly is the transaction and why even we worry about the transactional processing in the first place, right? So the first thing is a transaction, which is a step-by-step manner which you do to complete any task. The second point you need to remember is transaction is of three types: linear, iterative, and transactional, right? When I talk about the linear process, it simply means do the process only once, right? So on the right hand side, you are seeing an kind of a diagram. Let me quickly highlight that for you here. So my process is starting where I say initialization, which means that I am going to an automation. I have to write an automation. So I need to open a browser. I just open the browser, I get the data, I process the data, and I end the process. This thing is happening only once, right? So if I pull up a notepad, okay, let me pull up quickly a notepad. So in case of linear processing, step one will happen, step two will happen, step three will happen, step four will happen, and that's it. This automation will execute only once. So if you have some automation which has to be executed only once, it is called a linear transaction. It can be as simple as that, right? Go to a browser, put some data, extract the information, send an email. This you have to do only once. So whenever you say that, hey, I have to do this automation only once, you are referring to something which is called a linear transaction, right? The second part, or I would say the next version of the transaction, is called a iterative transaction, where I say that you have to do the task, but you have to do it in iterative manner, right? To give an example, let's say I have to write an automation where I have to send a, let's say, introduction email to all of you who has joined in this webinar, right? And all this email ID I can get from an email. Okay, so my process will start by, let's say, opening the Outlook. Okay, then the second step would be to get the mail IDs, right? Now here I got the mail IDs like this mail ID. So I see we are 80 odd people. So I got the 80 email IDs, right? Now I have to send an email to all of you one by one, right? But if you see, the process of sending email is exactly the same, right? Whatever email I write it to you, the only thing which will change is maybe the sender, hello, this, right? Now, when I am doing this automation, what I will do is I'll first take the first item, first email ID, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth, then the sixth, and it will keep continuing going till the end. But all of this is happening at once here. The only difference here you would see from the linear, this is in my linear, the process of getting the data and then processing data, this is only happening once. But here what is happening in the iterative, you initialize, you get the data at once, and then you process the data one by one. If you see this diagram, all this data is processing one by one. But this guy has a challenge, right? Let's say what happens while I was sending the third email ID, somehow I got a incorrect email ID. Transaction number 1 was successful. I hope now you understand what is a transaction. Transaction 1 is successful. Transaction 2 is successful. When I was doing the transaction 3, my robot got some exception and it got faulted, right? It says that, hey, the email ID which you have got is not correct. Now, a question arises, what should happen to the transaction number 4, 5, 6 till 80? Do all these need to stop, or we still want to continue if I get an exception in step number 3, right? I'll take a pause and you guys can use the chat. I hope you have access to the chat. Let me know in the chat, what do you think? If I get an exception in the step number 3, or let's say for a transaction number 3, what should happen to the other items in the list, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 80 till 80, right? Should we continue or should we stop the process? Okay, iteration will stop, right? Iteration will stop. Somebody says continue, somebody says stop, right? So yes, it should continue, right? Pratyusha says it should continue. Abhijit says it should continue, right? Now there are two questions. What will happen and what ideally should happen? Okay, so if you see this diagram here, all of these transactions are happening one by one. So the problem with iterative transaction is that if you get any exception in here, all of your other transaction will not execute, and that is the challenge with the iterative. But this is not actually a challenge. This is a feature, I would say, right? You might be writing an automation for a company which do not want any transaction to get successful if you get any exception, right? You might write an automation where I say that, hey, in case I get exception in any of these items, do not process the other items. So then you are going to use the iterative. However, such as this scenario where we have to send the email, right? All the emails are agnostic of each other. So if there is an exception in one email ID, I want to make sure that the other email ID process, which means that there should be no dependency between the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, right? Kundan says if I get some exception in any transaction, then it will stop and not process the next data, correct? That is what is in the iterative, because all of this is happening once. But let's say you have to write an automation where you have to send email, such as this example. And I do not want any relationship between 3 and the 4. So here what is happening? 3 and 4 are having some relationship. 3 is failing, it has an impact on 4. 4 is failing, it has an impact on the 5th. This was the iterative. That's why to overcome this, we have something which is called the third one, which is called transactional processing, where each individual item is a separate transaction. When I say separate transaction, if your item numbers, you are processing item like this, whatever happens with this first one, right? Even if it is success, even it fail, business exception, system exception, it has nothing to do with the other items. In case the transaction number 3 fail, it gets successful, it do anything, you have no relationship, nothing to do with the other item, because all of those are now separate transactions, and that is what it is called transactional transaction. Now if you see this diagram, in the transactional processing, we are saying that all these data are separate, and if you see this arrow, the processing is also separate, right? And this is what it is called a transactional processing. So if I again repeat, transactions, linear, do it once, iterative, processing at once, this would come in picture, right? When you guys actually have a list of items and you try to process it one by one, any item fails, your process fails, right? Iterative transaction. And the last one, where you do not want to have any relationship, we use something which is called transactional processing. Okay, now I'll just go back to my UiPath Studio here. Why I was explaining this. How do you create REFrame Work? This is my UiPath Studio. If you see here, wherever you say Robotics Enterprise Framework, what does it say? Create a transactional business process, right? Transactional business process, which means that I want to create a process which is transactional in nature, which means that my one transaction has no relationship with the other transaction. How do we do that? How REFrame Work do this? We will see in a step-by-step manner. But the step one is REFrame Work is used to create a process which is called a transactional business process. Now a question arises, can I modify the framework and use it for linear iterative? The answer is yes, right? But if you do not change anything, you just start automation. By default, REFrame Work is used to create the transactional business process. Okay, so that's why it is important for you to understand what is transactional. Okay, coming back to my presentation, some of the example. Okay, so for example, you are writing an automation where you have to process a lot of invoices. I have a folder. In that folder, I have got 50 invoices. Now, what is the transaction? Each invoice will be now one transaction. I am writing an automation to resolve ServiceNow tickets, and I have got 100 ServiceNow tickets to resolve. So what would be the transaction item? The transaction item would be each service item or each of the ServiceNow ticket which I have to resolve. Okay. I have an Excel. In that Excel, I have 200 rows which I want to process. What would be the each transaction? Each transaction would be each row in the Excel. So step number one for an RPA developer before going to REFrame Work is that understand what is my requirement. I want to create a transactional processing. That's fine. What is my transaction? What should I put and what is the item which I want to repeat? So the step one for you is to define what exactly is your transaction and what items you want to process. Now, the next step. So that was about the transactional processing. Now, there is a term when we say robotics enterprise, there is something, a word which is called framework. Okay. Forget about the slide, right? If I ask you guys, what do you understand when I just say framework? What comes to your mind when I say framework? And why do you think it's important, right? What comes to your mind when I say framework, right? Not talking technically. Yeah.
It's a structure. You can say structure in layman's term.
Yeah, structure template. Okay, so let's say I'm in my college 4th year. Okay, and company is coming and I have created my resume. Now Ravi Raja is my friend and he says that Mukesh, I have not created my resume. So can you share me your resume? So what I'll do is he will take my resume, he will change the details and he will put his details, right? So somebody says, AK says predefined template, Usha says structured, and the process in order, right? So basically framework is something which I have created. You guys can just put your details and do it, right? Now, Ravi has to create a resume, right? Can Ravi write his own resume? The answer is yes, right? He can go to internet, he can write it from the scratch, right? But let's say Ravi says that Mukesh, your resume looks good. Why can't I use this, right? Same concept applies to the UiPath as well. UiPath has created a framework for me, which is a template. So UiPath has put a lot of things in that thing so that you guys do not have to worry about a lot of things. So for example, whenever I'm writing an automation, it is important for me to do the exception handling. Whenever I'm writing an automation, it is important for me to do the logging. If I have to write an automation, I have to make sure that I keep the things configurable. So REFramework or UiPath has created a template. It says that, hey, I am giving you this template. I have given all the things which UiPath feels is necessary as a developer for you to write an automation. Now it's upon you. You can utilize it. You can add, delete, a lot of things you can do, right? So what exactly is a framework? Framework is a template of designing an automation process. At bare minimum, UiPath framework provides you the way to store, read, configuration file, exception handling, logging, relevant transaction information. Everything is logged in the orchestrator. A kind of framework which is provided by REFramework, which is provided by UiPath, and this is called REFramework. Okay, so Robotics Enterprise Framework is a framework which is built on top of state machines, right? Now this is a second concept, right? So today I have till this point I have talked about two concepts. The first one is the framework and the second one is the transactional processing, right? So REFramework is a template which is used to build the transactional processing. And how it is built? It is using something which is called state machines. Now what exactly is a state machine? We have sequence, we have flowchart, we have state machine, right? What exactly is a state machine? So I believe you guys are coming from a little bit of UiPath background. You might have completed the developer foundation. So I want to just give what exactly is a state machine and why should you use it, right? State machine is a workflow which is there in UiPath whenever you want to build an automation where you have a complete control on the automation. With the state machine, it is very easy for you to add or remove the states. In state machine, you have a separate distinction of business and the application exception. You can have multiple transition of a state, you have self transition of state, and you can have n number of final states. So when you are using state machine, you get all of this, right? So people who are not aware of state machine, it is a simple layout which looks something like this. Okay, it has an entry state, it has an exit state, and it has something which is called transition. Now the complete RE framework is built on the state machine. So it is important for us to know how does a state machine work, right? This is not a tutorial on state machine, so that's why not spending much time on state machines, but you should know the flow. Okay, so whenever there is a state machine, the first thing which executes in a state machine is called the entry section. Whatever code as a developer you would write in the entry section, that will execute first. Now what would happen? The second thing is the transition. State machine will check whether I have the transition to go to the next stage or not. So step one is executed in the entry block. In the transition, it will check, do I have a way to go forward or no? If it finds a way forward to go to the next step, which is called the transition, then while it is moving out of the state machine, the code which is written in the exit block will execute, right? So the execution of state machine happens like this: entry, transition, validate the transition, and then execute the code which is written in the exit. Okay, there is one more state which is called final state. It has only one state which is called final, where you just put the data whichever you require, right? Remember this diagram. Remember at least what exactly are the state and how does this work, because if you remember this, RE framework would be a piece of cake for you. Okay, so entry, transition, validate the transition, and then exit. Okay. Okay, so in case you are not aware of the state machine, I have a dedicated video both in English and Hindi where I am explaining this complete state machine, right? You can visit the channel. There you have this complete thing. Okay. Now, uh, we saw three concepts today: state machines, transactions, and framework. Combine all of this together and you will get something which is called REFrame Work, which is here in the template. If you're not getting here, just click on this one, which is called more templates, and you can put it from here, right? By default, it is pinned, but if it is not pinned, you can search your robotics enterprise framework and it should be available for you. Okay. So I'll go to the home. I'll click on this guy. Sorry, my bad. I'll click on the start button. Okay. And here you have something which is called robotics enterprise framework. So I'm creating a new RE framework. Good practice. Whenever you are starting any automation, I can always go and hit create. It will create an automation, but always remember that put a good name to the process and also provide the description. So tomorrow when I come back, I should know that what exactly is this thing doing, right? And I'll say create. Okay. We'll just wait for the robotics enterprise framework to fire up. Okay. Meanwhile, that is firing up. This is how the robotics enterprise frameworks look like. Okay, it is firing up. I'll show that in the video as well, but this is how it will look like. It will have total 4 states. Okay, this is a common interview question. How many states we have in RE framework? We have 4 states in RE framework, right? Init, get transaction, process, and end process. For the people who are experienced in 1 to 2 years, going for an interview, remember these are the 4 states, right? We don't have 5, 6, 10 state, right? First question on RE framework, how many states? We have 4 state: init, get transaction, process transaction, and end state, right? So this is how the RE framework look like. And next in this tutorial, in this webinar, sorry, I'm going to tell you guys how does that open and how you have to write the code and everything about this. Okay. See, I created a blank framework, absolutely blank. It has nothing, right? The first thing whenever you start an RE framework, you have to do is go here and put the process title, process description, and any information which you want to give about the process, right? So let's say what is the process title? You are writing it for HR automation, mention it HR, what is the process description and this, right? These things, you might think that why I have to write, but trust me, when you are writing a lot of automation, you have a big team of developers, this thing works, right? Best practices. Okay. Now, as you can see, init, get transaction, process transaction, and end process, right? If I keep my mouse on this one, general business process, I go to the properties. See, this is a state machine, right? RE framework built on state machine. First thing, you don't have to trust me, okay? If I say it's built on state machine, you don't have to trust me. You have to go to UiPath and see it yourself, okay? So see here, RE framework, how would UiPath has created, right? It's not something like magic, right? They would have gone, created a new state machine, right? So they created a new state machine and they named it as general business process, which is coming here. Then added this annotation. And then if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, if I keep my mouse on this, if I go to the properties, see, this is a state, get transaction data. I'll go to properties, I'll pin this. Get transaction data is also a state. Process transaction is a state and end process is a state. So total how many states? We have 4 states. So remember the diagram? This guy, right? This is a state. So that means that initialization will also have entry exit transition. And if you have the final state, your end state, which is a final state, it will have only one section, which would be entry, right? Don't have to trust me. Let's go back to here. I will just collapse this a little bit. Okay. So if you see here, this is an initialization, this is an state, and this is an end state. If I double click on it, initialization, I'll collapse everything, right? It might look a very big framework, right? But if you understand step by step, it's very easy. Okay. How many states do you see? Initialization, exit, and transition, right? Entry, exit, transition. If I go to the get transaction, see, I'll collapse this. Same thing, right? Entry, exit, transition. Same will happen for the process transaction, but in the end process, you only have one, which is called entry, right? So if I have to go back to that slide, initialization, first, whatever code is written here will execute, then transition, and then exit, right? Let's see that in action. So I have created this framework. Now I want to start it step by step, right? When I run this automation, what will happen, right? Let's see that. The process will start from which button? Start, right? As the name suggests, it will start from here. Just follow the arrow. Where is this arrow going? The arrow is going to initialization. REFramework says that, hey, I am going to read the configuration file and doing this. This is mentioned what it is doing. But if I want to understand it technically, let's open this initialization. Entry, exit, transition. Which code will execute first? Can anybody tell me in this? Now this is a test for you, right? I want to see whether you guys are listening on, right? Which code will execute first? Entry, exit, or transition? Okay, entry, correct. Awesome. So you guys are with me. Fine. So in the entry, right? So UiPath automation started. It went to the entry section. Now in the entry, if I click on this, right? See, what exactly is this? This is a try catch activity. Try catch is simply a concept of exception handling, that whatever you write in try, if you get some exception, it goes into the catch, right? Exception handling, guys, very important topic. Please focus on exception handling if you are not already aware of, right? So in the try, I have written some code, which is this. See, we'll go step by step, right? In the try, what we have got is a try, and then any exception come, we go to the catch. So inside the try, the first thing REFramework has done is created a sequence, right? What is a sequence, guys? Where all the steps are executing one by one, right? So let's go back. What would happen? Process will start. It will follow this arrow. It will go to the initialization. It will go to this entry. In the entry, I have a try catch, and inside that I have a sequence, which means that all of these steps are going to happen one by one, right? Now, what is the first thing which is happening here? REFramework started and it created a activity which is called assign activity, and it created a variable called system exception is equal to nothing. Now, what is the system exception is equal to nothing? If you go to the variable, system exception is a type of exception. Now, REFramework is telling me, Mukesh, I have just started the process. So I am assuming that you don't have any exception. And that is true, right? We are just starting. I just started here, right? So we don't have any exception because we are just starting. So I created a variable called system exception is equal to nothing. Correct? No exception, 0. So this variable by default here, system exception is set to nothing, no exception at all. Now, what is the next thing? The next thing is this one, which is again a if activity, right? I'll tell you why it is written in if activity, but let's see what is here. The first thing, whenever I have to start my automation, I want to make sure that my config file should be there. Remember, I was talking about that we need to have REFramework give us some benefit, and one of the benefit is the configuration file, right? What exactly is a config file? In the project, you have a folder which is called data, and inside the data you have something which is called config.xlsx, right? Nowadays I'm getting a common comment that, Mukesh, my REFramework is not having a config file. Why that is so? Because here is a filter, and whenever you are opening your studio after update, UiPath is by default, this option is unchecked, others, right? So in case sometimes you're working on REFramework, you don't find config in the data, that means that in the filter option, you have not selected the others. Okay. So what REFramework has done is it has provided me a config file, which is a plain Excel. REFramework says that whatever you think might change in future, put all the things in the config file. So for example, I am writing an automation and I have to send an email, right? So today my email ID is, let's say, mukeshkala@xyz.com. Tomorrow, I want to send it to a new email ID or my business account change. I do not have to change the automation. I simply come to my config file and change this. Today, I am using a URL called, let's say, www.gmail.com. Tomorrow, Gmail decide to change the domain and make it to gmail2.com. I don't have to change the automation, just come here and change the value and it will take it. This is a plain Excel which works on the concept of key and a value pair. Do I need to write any automation to read the Excel and do all of that? The answer is no, because we are using a framework and a template. So the first thing REFramework does, it is created a dictionary. Now, what exactly is a dictionary, right? If I have to store this data, this and this, this and this, which data type should I store? I cannot create a string variable. I cannot create an integer variable, because if I have to put a value something like this, right? I'll just go here. Let's say I have a threshold and the threshold value is 4000. Now, when I'm starting my automation, I want to read this complete data and I want to store it in a variable. What kind of variable it would be? So whenever we read the Excel, what do we get? Question, guys. Whenever I read the Excel in UiPath, right? What do we get? Interview question for the beginners, guys. If I have
Data
to read
table.
this data table, right? Awesome. So we get a data table, right? But data table has its own, I would say, limitation, because whenever you have to get the data out of the data table, you have to specify the index and then you have to take care of the spaces and a lot of things, right? So what is happening here? The first thing REFramework does, if you see here variables, right? It has created a config file. It is a variable. What is the type of the variable? It is of the type string and the other one is an object. Now, why this is string and object? String is a key and this is a value. So this key has always a string. And now depending on the value, right? Sometime I can mention it here integer. Sometime I might write it here false. Sometime I make it true. Sometime I put my name. How would REFramework decide that what value you are going to put in that? So that's why it has made that, okay, the key would be always string, but the value would be of object. So it created a dictionary and told that, hey, the dictionary is of string and object. Now, whenever you read the data from this, you get a data table, put that data table into the dictionary. And that is what REFramework has done here. See, let me show it to you. First thing, a log message done. What is the resolution of the screen? This is recently added so that in case you are working on a different resolution of screen, you can directly see this message in orchestrator that what is the message, right? Now it has written a XAML, which is called init all settings, also known as initialize all the settings. Now what is happening inside this workflow? It says that go to the data folder. Inside the data folder, you would have something which is called config file. Read the sheets and give me the output in a config variable. Okay. String and generic, why not so? What is the use of screen resolution? Okay. So screen resolution is, let's say when I'm running my automation, right? I am in a resolution. Okay. Let me show it to you as well. If I have the settings open, yeah, here it is. So if you see, this is my screen resolution. Okay, I am in the screen resolution of 1920 into 1080, right? Which is my screen resolution. Now let's say I am running this in a client or a customer environment. Let's say Sandhya is my customer and Sandhya has a screen setting of 1080 into 1080 or something else. Now the automation is breaking or it is giving me unexpected results, right? So the first thing whichever we check as a developer is that what is the resolution, right? Am I in the correct orchestrator? Is the resolution setting correct or not, right? So what UiPath has done is it has added the first thing directly in the automation, that whenever an automation start, it prints whatever resolution is of that screen where it is running, right? So you directly get this log into your orchestrator, right? The second question is why it is string and generic. That I'll answer you, Satya, in a moment. Okay. So what it has done is it is saying me that Mukesh, I will go to the data, inside the data, I would have a config file, which is this guy, config file. I will read the settings and the constant sheet, and I will give you output as a dictionary of string and object. Okay, I'll say okay. And if I go here, open workflow, see, it's not any magic which is happening, right? Start with assigning a dictionary. We created a dictionary here, but we never initialized it, right? So we are initializing the dictionary so that we do not get object reference not set to an instance of an object, right? That comes if you do not initialize the variables, right? So UiPath initialized it. Now I can have multiple sheets. So for each sheet, whichever sheets you have mentioned in that settings and constants, read range, right? Because we are using an Excel to read. So that's why read range. And which read range is this? This is a workbook read range. Now, why workbook read range and why not Excel application scope? Because sometime what might happen, right? I am running in an environment and they might not have Excel installed. So my automation breaks, right? Do not want to fall into that. Using the right range. When I use the right range, what I get? A data table. See, data table of setting and constants. I got the data table. For each row in the data table, if you have any empty records like this guy, this, everything empty, right? This empty. So ignore this. Whenever you find value, just add it to the dictionary. So what is the dictionary? Value of row name becomes your key and this becomes your value. Do as a developer, I need to change anything? The answer is no. You do not have to use anything here. Okay. Why do we need to initialize the dictionary but not the string data type? Okay, string has by default a value of empty, right? If you see here, string.empty here, right? However, whenever you work with collection, this is not only for this dictionary, Praveen, it is applicable for array, linked list. Whenever you create a collection, you have to initialize before you do any add or remove. Otherwise, you will get object reference not set to an instance of an object. The same will happen if you have a data table and you try to manipulate the data without initializing it. Okay, so that's why initialization is important. Now here, what is happening? It is reading all the settings, init all settings, has read all the setting. Now you might ask me a question, Mukesh, my config has got 3 sheet, setting, constant and assets. You are instructing UiPath to read only setting and constants. What happened to the assets, right? We are not passing the assets here. So how does the asset sheet is getting read? The asset sheet is getting read right in the init all settings. If you collapse this, here you see, once you have initialized the dictionary, then you have a separate setting which is called try initializing the assets, where you say get the orchestrator assets and it is reading the asset sheets only, right? Same concept, read the data table, add it to the assets and add that value back to the dictionary, right? Now, once this is done, you see the import arguments here. Go to the data, read everything, and you will get a config. Now, an important thing to remember here, and that as a developer you would understand, right? The config is an object whose scope is to general business process, which means what is this general business process? See, in the main, this is the general business process. So basically, REFramework is telling me, Mukesh, I have read your complete data from the config, and that data would be available in your complete automation, right? So no need to pass the data from one activity to another activity. I have made it to this complete general business process, right? Now, if you see here, what happens in the init? It read the config and it gave me a config. So I have all the settings. Now, there is two more XAML here, which you do not need to do anything, right? But you should know what exactly it is, right? So previously, in the version of 2018.3, right? So as of now, we are in 2023, right? You might be in a company or organization where you have a older version of orchestrator where you do not have the concept of folders and all. So you can actually utilize this setting, which is called the in orchestrator queue name, and this one in orchestrator queue folder to override the setting whichever you give, right? What exactly that mean? I'll show that to you. So you have a config here. It says that, hey Mukesh, tell me which is your folder. So let's say my folder is the admin folder. What is the queue name? The queue name is ABCQ, right? But now let's say I have written an automation and I want to override this. And this we usually do when we use in the 2018.3 version. So in your REFramework, when you deploy it to orchestrator, if you see in the arguments, you have these two input arguments with you, in orchestrator queue name and in orchestrator queue folder. So these two input arguments would be available for you in the orchestrator. In case you are in a version of 2018.3 or older and you want to override the settings of this guy, right? You can use this thing. If you do not touch this, it does not any hamper. But if you provide those value in the orchestrator queue, or sorry, in the orchestrator process, this will get overwritten here, right? So for a developer, if you're writing in the new version, keep it is as it is, right? No need to change anything. Okay. Now, so we have got the screen resolution. I have read the config. These two I ignore because I'm in the latest version. And then I have got something which is called kill all process. Now, what exactly is a kill all process, right? So whenever you are starting any automation, right, I want to make sure that my automation starts in a clean environment. Now, what exactly is a clean, right? So let's say I want to go ahead and write some automation in my Google Chrome. Okay, so this is my Google Chrome and I want to write some automation in my Google Chrome. But my Google Chrome is hang. It is not responding. When I run my automation, will it work? The answer is no, right? Because this is not responding. The second thing might happen is somebody else, a previous automation which was running before me, has created a lot of junk, has created a lot of metadata, has opened, let's say 100 Chrome tabs. And when my automation is coming, the Chrome is not responding. My automation will break. So first thing, I want to make sure that whichever EXEs I want to use are clean, right? So I can go here into the notepad, let's say, and my automation is using, let's say, Excel, my automation is using Chrome, my automation is using SQL Server, my automation is using SAP, right? As a developer, you should be clearly aware of what all things your automation is using. This is a part of your solution design document, also known as the SDD, right? I know that I need all of this, and before I start my automation, I want to make sure that all of this is clean, right? So how do I close the Excel? So there are two ways, right? I can go here, I can close this Excel, soft kill. Okay, I can go here, I can close this Excel, save, don't save. I say, don't save, close it. The other way is if the Excel is not responding, it will hang itself, right? So how do you kill it? So then as a human, you go to task manager, right? And then you find the process here. Okay, Google Chrome, you are not responding. Let me go here, right click and kill the process and the task, right? So there are always two ways of killing, right? If you want to close this notepad, I can go here, close this notepad, soft kill, right? It's not responding, go here and hard kill, right? So whenever you are starting your automation for the first time, REFramework hard kills. It hard kills everything, right? How does it do? You just have to open this workflow, right? And here, REFramework is a template. It is guiding you. Use the kill process activity to force the termination. Force the termination means hard kill. Which activity should I use? Kill process. I'll go to the activities and I'll use something which is called kill process. Drag and drop it here. Which process you want to kill? What is the process name? So I want to kill Excel. I'll mention here Excel. I want to kill Edge. I will use something like MS Edge. That's it, right? And what will happen? This is the same thing which you do from the task manager, directly killing it, right? Without the soft kill, because it want to make sure that it is correctly killed without anything, right? Now a question arises, how do you know whether Excel is Excel, MSH is MSH, right? It's absolutely easy, right? So for example, you want to kill a Word application. But how do, as a developer, I know that what would be the process name here, right? So simply go to the application which is installed on your computer, right click on it, go to the open file location wherever it is installed. Okay, here see, this is the Word. I go to the properties, and at the end you see it is written winword.exe. So winword.exe is an exe name for Microsoft Windows Word. So in case I want to kill the Word, I will simply use the winword here like this. Okay, no .exe is required, just pass the double quotes the name of the exe, right? So what happens? Kill all process. Actually make sure that you kill everything and your environment is clean. And after that, it just use an activity which is called add log message activity, which generate this log into the orchestrator. And this completes your this part, which is called first run, right? I'll explain you why this is called first run in a bit moment, right? There is a new setting, next block, which is called max consecutive system exception. I'll talk about this in a moment. As of now, I'm parking this, right? So we have read the config file, we have initialized, clean the environment, and after that, you have closed everything, right? You have closed the Excel, SAP database. Now, if your automation has to run, you need to reopen them, and you want to see, right, whether they are opening or not, right? So in here, you close everything, and then you have a XAML which is called init all application. Simply means initialize all the application, whichever you have closed. So here you will open all the application which your automation is going to use. So here now you will write automation like open browser, right? Open the database, connect to the database, everything whichever you need to initialize the application will come into this state, right? And that completes your initialization, right? See, so what happens in the initialization? I'll collapse everything, close this, go to the main. Yeah, I'll collapse this as well. So in the initialization, read the configuration file, clean up the environment, and initialize the application used in the process. All of this happen in this activity, which is here. Okay, now I have a question. If I want to open multiple application, just in the init all application, one by one, put it in a sequence, right? Okay, there is a big question from Jagdish. How to use the argument? I mean, I create an out argument in the init.xaml. How do I use an argument in the process? Could you show practically? Yeah, so whenever you deploy this automation to orchestrator, when you are creating a process or when you are running a job, that time you will have that argument, right? If time permits, I'll show it to you as well. Okay. If I want to open multiple application, one in starting and second in between, right? So you can always do that, right? So whatever you require at the starting, you write that code in the init all application, and then whatever you want to open in between, use it in the process.xaml, which we'll see in this one, right? Now here, this is a state machine. We initialized everything, open the config, everything open, right? Entry block is completed. What is the next step? State machine, it will go and it will execute the transition, right? In the transition, see exit block is empty, right? In the transition, it will see whether I have to go to get transaction or whether I have to go to end process, right? But how the RE framework will decide, right? It does not do any magic. It's absolutely simple, just an if else condition. See, when you started the automation, you had a variable called system exception, right? Which is nothing. Now I was reading the config, I was reading the assets, opening the application, killing it. Anytime I get any exception, see what happened in the catch. In the catch, that system exception object is having a value which is called exception. Okay. Now there was a variable which was called system exception. By default, its value was nothing, which means I don't have any exception. In case there is some exception, the system exception variable is having the exception value, right? Can anybody tell me which one indicates a successful, right? Which is a success and which is a failure? The first one is a success or the second one is a success? Which indicates the success? Nothing, right? First one. If there is no system exception, that means I am absolutely good. If I have some exception, that means I have got some errors, right? No magic, completely if else happening in the transition. In the transition C, there are two destinations now. You can either go to get the transition data or you can go to the end process. But how does REFramework decide, right? Let's click on this successful. See the condition for successful. System exception is nothing. I have not got any exception. So the destination is get the transaction data. If system exception is not nothing, which means I got some exception. So log that message as an error and go to the end process, right? Simple if else activity, which is happening here. In case you get any exception, go to the end process. In case you get do not get any exception, everything is successful, go here. How that is controlled? Just by using the transition state using an if statement, right? No big deal. Just go here and go to these states. You as a developer can introduce more states as well, right? Other interview question which I can tell you here is that what happens if you get, okay, so I'll ask you guys, right? What happens if I get any exception in the initialization state? Many developers says that yes, it is going to retry. Many developers say that it will go to this, right? Now, if I ask you guys, in case the automation get any exception in initialization, what will happen to the process?
It will go to end process.
Right? Why it will go to end process? Because yeah, because I was not able to open the config file. I am not able to open, let's say, the application. There is no point in running the automation, right? Anyways, it's going to fail. So where we go? End process. Now what happens in the end process? End process close all the application, right? Let's open the end process and see what happens. I'll open the end process. Only one section, which is entry, right? So we don't have any option. It will execute this. In the entry section, you again have the try catch block, exception handling already done by REFrame Work for you. In the try, it has a XAML which is called close all application. So when I was initially trying to clean up the environment, I killed it from the task manager. But when I am trying to close an application first as a developer, I would try to soft kill the application, right? So let's say I have opened this Chrome browser. Now I want to make sure that first my automation goes and click on this close button, soft kill, which is called close all application. So in the close all application, you will write the code to end the process, like log out, close the application, Control+X, soft kill, right? And that's why it says closing of application. Now, sometime what happens that you are trying to close an application and it is giving some error, exception. What would happen? It will catch that exception, go to the exception, and here REFrame Work has done the job for you. It says that, hey, Mukesh, you will get this login orchestrator, which would be like this. I'll pull it here. I tried to close the application gracefully. I failed. This is the exception at this activity or whatever source. That's why I am now killing it, right? So soft kill, and then you go and hard kill. Same XAML, which is kill all process. If I open this, see all those whichever we have killed is now reused, right? Classic example of code reuse, right? REFrame Work has reused the code, right? So first it will try to soft kill in the end process. It's not able to soft kill, go and hard kill. And how do you hard kill? By just using the kill all process, right? Benefit, exception handling, everything done by REFrame Work for me. Okay. It is possible to get business exception in the init state. Okay, interesting question, Vinod. Okay, now you tell me, Vinod, did I have written any code which has to do with business exception? Okay, before that, it's a question for everybody since Vinod has asked it, so I'm asking Vinod, right? Can you guys tell me what do you understand when I say business exception? Okay, let's see, right? It's a good question, Vinod, by the way. Yeah. What do you understand when I say business exception? Custom. Go to the next transaction. Oh, I'm not asking technically, right? Okay, input format is invalid. Okay, data validation error. Yes,
Maybe
correct,
the
right?
input information is not.
Okay, so I'll give you one scenario. Okay, I am writing an automation where I was expected to download some data from a portal, right? Simple automation. My robot was supposed to go to a browser and download some data. One day my automation went and there is no data at all. Is it a system exception or is it a business exception? Business exception, right? Now, how do you decide? You are writing an automation. If as a developer, you can fix it, it's a system exception. If as a developer, you cannot fix it, it is a business exception, right? Now, let me ask you a different question. I am writing an automation and I have got an error, which is object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay. Or let's say I was reading an Excel and my read range activity broke. System exception, correct, right? Why system exception? Because I can fix it. Now coming back to that question, right? In my init all settings, did we do anything which is related to a business process? Did we write any code which we have to do here? No, right?
No.
Everything was technical. That's why no business exception in the init all settings. But now, again, this is just a framework. Now let's say some of you are working for a company and the company says that, hey, in case in the init all settings, you are not able to open an application, I want you guys to raise a business exception, right? You can specify the business exception here. But if you see the initialization, the default one, right? There is nothing for business exception, right? Application not launch is a business exception. Okay, Kasim. So Kasim or Kasim, right? Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrect, Kasim. So you are a business, right? You are an HR. Okay, right. So yeah, again, right? So there are two opinions, right? Let me ask Kasim, if you are able to hear me, you can put it on the chat, right? And it's a good thing. So Kasim is a business developer. Okay, Kasim is a business user who is expecting a report at 9 a.m. from the bot. Okay, Kasim is a business user, right? He does not understand RPA, technical, anything. The robot is working in a different computer, different server. Kasim is sitting on his machine, waiting for the robot. And someday what happens, the browser crash. Can Kasim do something? He is a business user. He do not have access to orchestrator. He is not a technical guy, right? What do you say, Kasim? I'm just okay. Manish says no, right? Because you're a business user. All you worry about is the thing, right? Yes, if the input is incorrect, right? If let's say Kasim has provided some credential, user ID, password is incorrect, then Kasim can say that, hey, this is a new password. But we are not logging into, right? We are just opening the applications. We have not done anything related to the business. You can do all of that if required, and you have just add one transition here, right? But by default, REFramework says that you just initialize the application, don't do anything. That's why you only have one arrow here which says system exception. Okay. Next, what I have got is something which is called get the transaction data. Transaction data. What is the transaction data? What you are going to process, right? Get the next transaction to be processed. Inside that, what happens? See, retrieve the data. Now, as an RPA developer, you should know what exactly is your transaction. By default, REFramework work with the concept of queues, which means that you go here, retrieve the data from the queue. Now, which queue? How REFramework will know which queue you want to process, right? So I am in my admin folder. I can have multiple queues, right? If I go to the data manager here. So by the way, guys, this is a new feature of 2022.10, right? Where you have all these things available here. You can manage everything from here, right? So I can see that in my orchestrator, I have this many queues: sample queue, items queue, queue data, GL queue, offer letter, HR, messages, Acme queue, right? how would REFramework decide which queue I want to read the transactions? That's where this guy will come in picture, which is called the config.xlsx. Config has the two things for you. One is the queue name and the other is the folder. Orchestrator is now on the modern design. You have a concept of the folder and the queue name. All you have to do is just mention which folder and which queue you want to use, right? So for me, the folder is the admin folder and the queue name would be whichever queue we want to use. Okay. Mention the queue name in the config file, right? So this is all on the modern design. And if I go to the orchestrator, right? So these are all the queues. See, and the new thing, right, which I want to show you guys, if you are not already aware of, with this new release, you can just click on any one of this and it will automatically open my orchestrator to that page, right? No need to go to cloud.uipath.com, sign in, log in, and do all of that. You just click on this and it will automatically navigate to the correct orchestrator to the page, which is here. See, like this, right? So pretty handy feature. Data manager 2022.10 update. By the way, we are in the 23.8 release, got very new features. So in case you are a developer and you are not aware of that, you can watch my playlist where I have explained all these update 23.6, 22.10 in a step-by-step manner, right? Important for you guys to know where exactly the product is moving towards. Okay. Now, if you see here, I will mention my queue name here and my queue folder here. But how would REFramework know that you have mentioned here? So if you see here in the get transaction data, get the transaction data. Do you have to change anything? The answer is no. Okay, so I say here, open the workflow and here get the transaction data. How do you read the data from the queue? You have an activity which is called get queue item. It is renamed to get transaction item. By the way, the activity is get queue item. And if you see here, REFramework is, see, REFramework is reading this queue folder from the config and is reading the queue name from the config. So whatever you put here in the get transaction, in the config, it is going to read this data and this data from it, right? Okay, Jagdisha says, hi Rajesh. Okay, so I think it's Rajesh. So I think it's me, Mukesh. So I have one question. Can we use multiple queue in the config file? Answer is no. Right? Now my counter question to you would be, why do you want to use multiple queues, right? First of all, you need to understand the reason of using queues is that so that we can put it in a different transaction, and in future if I want to use it in a multi robot, so today I have only 5 email IDs, one robot works. Tomorrow I have 500, one robot might not work, right? So we have to distribute the workload into multiple robots. That's why one queue automatically distributes. Can you do that? The answer is yes, right? But you need to change right code here, right? So you can introduce here, copy this to paste it here. Okay, yeah, based on the dispatcher performer concept. Yes, absolutely. So you can copy this two attributes here and duplicate this here, and now change the key name, and in your get transaction data, use one more get transaction data and read the data, right? But what do you like to accomplish? You are going to create more problems by using this, right? If you have to read multiple queues in same process, then the question goes back to that, why do you want to do that, right? So that again goes back to the architecture and SE solution architect part, not spending there. But in this REFramework, it's not possible. Can you do it? Yes, right? But should you do it? The answer relies on why do you want to do it, right? So that's get transaction data. Okay, now I have a question for you guys. Okay, let's say my automation is going to the orchestrator and trying to read some data. It is not able to read the data. It got some exception. The connection to the orchestrator is lost. Should it continue or should it not continue? What do you guys say? End the process, right? It should not continue. See, same thing. Go to the try. In case you get some exception, see, put it here I'll go back here, sorry, to the main. Okay. It has only one condition, which is no data. But you might be thinking, Mukesh, what happens to the exception? So from the get transaction, there are three things which can happen, right? Please focus here. Get transaction. I am reading the transaction, right? Either I get a successful that, okay, I have got the transaction. I can get the failure, or I can get no item, which means that the queue is empty. Now the queue can be empty because all the items are processed. There is nothing, or the queue is initially blank, right? If I am successful, process it. I had got some failure, and if there is no item, and all of this happens with this. But you might be thinking, Mukesh, where is the line for the exception, right? It's here. See, when you are getting the data from get transaction, you get some exception. It will come to the catch, and in the catch it says that transaction item is equal to nothing. And again the same concept. See, collapse everything. Get transaction data is a state machine, entry, transition, exit. If you have no data, you go to end process. If you have new transaction, go to process transaction. What is the condition for no data? Click on that. If the transaction item is not nothing, that you get something from the queue, go to process transaction. If transaction item is nothing, it is blank, go to the end process. So whenever you get any exception, the get transaction data, see, I'll just show it again. The get transaction data, put it in a try catch, and in the catch is simply set that variable to nothing. So that way REFramework thinks that yes, I don't have any data, and let me end the process, right? So that's what happened here, which is called end the process. Now in the top, you have something which is called stop. Okay. Now, what is stop and what is kill, right? For that, I have to go back to my orchestrator, guys, right? I'll show you this. Okay. So this is my orchestrator. There are some queues, right? So I'll go to my automation. So let's say I'll go to the admin folder. These are all my automations. Okay. I am running this automation on, let's say, this queue, right? This queue has got 55 items, right? So I have already triggered it. So let's say this one, this has got 123 items on the queue. If I go here and I say view the transactions, right? All the individual transactions are separate. So REFramework will process all of them one by one. Now let's say someday what happened that the transaction number 1 fail, second, third, right? If this is failing, this is failing, this is failing. Do you still want to continue this, or this? That again depends on your implementation. But whenever you are running any automation from orchestrator and you are monitoring is, you would get two options here in the jobs. Okay. Whenever there is a job which is running, let me just go here and trigger some of the job. Let's see which I can trigger. Okay, current time I can trigger. I can start it. Okay, so there is a job which is running on orchestrator. You would see there are two options. One is stop and one is kill. If I kill it, it will straight away kill it without looking at anything. However, there was a different option which was called stop. Stop means complete the current transaction and then stop, right? So for example, you have written an automation. That automation has to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps, right? Now, the automation was executing this and it was in the third step, and from the orchestrator, you say kill it. So it will kill the automation right here only. But when we will say stop, the automation will complete all these steps for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 till 9. And when it is a chance to go for a new transaction, then it will say that, hey, you have told me to stop, so I am stopping. And that setting is also done by REFrame Work for you, just using this simple button which is called should stop. As soon as you click stop on the orchestrator, that signal is received by this variable. Simple if activity. If you have received the signal, set the transaction item to nothing. And when you set the transaction item to nothing, what would happen? It will go to the end process. Simple code, right? Now, for those of you who are absolute new to orchestrator and you are looking for some kind of a hands-on practice, right? Last month I have got a collaboration with something which is called an academy biography, and they have given me a platform to launch my own courses, right? So I have launched my first course, which is called this one, orchestrator. As of now it's listed for $25.99, but I think you might be getting some discount here. If I, yeah, so there is some discount coupon which they are offering for the first 35 people, right? So in case you are interested to purchase this course and understand more about the orchestrator, I would post the link and you are free to explore that as well. Okay, so that was the get transaction data, which gives you no data, and you go to end process. Now, if everything is successful, my initialization was successful, I have got the config, I have got the data, I was able to read it, then I go and I do the process transaction. This is the place where you actually write the code, what you have to do with the automation. Now, to answer somebody's question that why business exception is not coming here, right? Now, if you see here, I think this would answer. In the process transaction, you will see the same concept here: entry, exit, and the transition. Now in the entry, here you will write the code what you want to do with the automation. Process.xaml, here you will write the code what you want to do with the automation. Log into the Salesforce, do that, and all of that, right? Now when you are processing a transaction, three things might happen. The transaction is successful, the transaction get an exception, or the transaction get a system exception. Sorry, my bad. System exception, or the transaction get a business exception. Now I want to ask a question to you guys, and I'm not expecting a correct answer, right? If I get a system exception, which means that I was trying to read the data from a browser and the browser is not responding, should I kill the browser, retry, or I simply say that, hey, because this is not responding, I am not going to work, right? I am in the process transaction and I got a system exception, right? Do you think it is worth to do a retry? Right. Okay. Now our second question. You are correct. Now a second question. I am writing an automation where I have to insert a password, username, and the password which is provided by business. Now, what happens is that has given me an incorrect user ID and the password. Do I need to retry that password again and again? What do you think? Business rule exception. No, right? Because if it is incorrect, it is, even if I tried 10 times, till the time you update it, and this happens very fast, there is no need to retry, right? So you guys understand all of that. Go to the next transaction, right? All of that exactly happens in the REFrame work, right? See here. In case in the process transaction, if you get a successful, everything is successful, see the arrow where it is going, get the next transaction data, right? And process and do everything. If you get a business exception, again going to the get transaction without even retrying. Business exception are not retried. But if you get a system exception, see, it is going to the initialization. What happens in the initialization? It will check whether it is the first run or it is the new run, right? So that's why this XAML is written as first run. So it will go here. If it is not a first run, which means that you already have config, right? And how would this activity know that whether it is a first run or a new run? It will simply check if the config object, if you have already the config object with you, that means you are coming from a failed transaction. But if you do not have the config object, that means you are running it for the first time. And here it goes, kill everything, and then it reopens the application. Lucky has a question. Can I retry the business exception? Answer is yes. How you can do that? Put it in a try catch block. That's it, right? So here in the process transaction, wherever you are generating the business exception, put it in a try catch block and redo the same operations. You can absolutely do that, but REFramework does not do it. Okay. Now, if I tell you one interesting thing here, right? In the system exception, we are telling UiPath that you go and you retry and you need to kill everything, right? But see this arrow carefully. It is coming here, system exception goes to the initialization. It is a first run. The answer is no, it won't go to this. And then it is directly coming to init all application. Where is the kill all process, right? Where did it clean the environment? It didn't clean the environment, right? See, you got a system exception. You got a system exception here. It came to init, and but the kill is happening when it is the first run only. See, the kill is inside this XAML, but it won't go to this XAML. Where is the kill happening? The kill is happening inside the process. Okay. In the process, in case you get any exception, right? What happens? Either you can get a business exception or you can get a system exception. In case you get a business exception, you set this variable business exception, and in case you get a system exception, you set this variable which is called system exception. See this same thing, system exception, business exception, and success. Now, whenever you are getting a system exception, let's talk about that. I'll go to the system exception block. Here you have a XAML which is called set the transaction status, which is responsible for setting the status of the queue. I can open the workflow, and here you can have success, you can have business exception, or you can have system exception. So when you have a system exception, here you would see that it will take the screenshot, and in this XAML, it would have written the code to close and kill the application, right? This is a kind of a tricky interview question, right? Which you might get if you are going for a developer interview, that where does the clean happen? The clean happen in the set transaction status, right? This is here. And the XAML, which is responsible, it called the set transaction status dot XAML. Okay. Now, when you are processing the item, see here, either you can get a business exception, either you can get a system exception, or either you can get a success. Now the question arises, how would REFramework know, right? Click on the system exception. See, REFramework created variables, system exception and business exception. Condition for business exception. If business exception is not nothing, which means that you don't have any business exception, go to get transaction data. See here, what is the condition for system exception? If system exception is not nothing, which means that you have got some exception in the system, go to the initialization. How do you know it is success? Neither you have a business see for the condition for success, right? Neither you have a system exception nor you have a business exception. That means you are successful. So only two variables, system exception, business exception. So how does the process work? Let me show it to you. It has got two variables. The first variable is business rule exception, and the second variable is system rule exception, right? SRE, I would say system exception, but to understand, I will say system rule exception, right? If the variable business rule exception is set, that means you are in business exception. If this variable is set, you are system exception. Here, if it is not BRE and not SRE, it means you are successful. Normal if else condition navigates the complete automation. And in case you get any exception, everything, it goes into here, right? So from process transaction, you never come to end the process. End the process will only happen in the scenarios which we have discussed, right? So that was the complete overview of RE framework. There are a couple of things which you guys need to remember about RE framework is that you can always change the RE framework to work with queues. You can always change the RE framework to work with data table. You can modify the RE framework to work with a linear process as well. And all of that can be done by just manipulating this framework. Okay. So before I wrap this webinar, I quickly want to show you the complete playlist. This is my channel, Tutorials by MukeshKala. Okay, here you have a Robotics Enterprise Framework playlist, which looks something like this. Okay, so people who are interested to learn in Hindi, we have a Hindi playlist as well. Let me just stop this as well. Okay, I think by mistake I opened Sandeep Maheshwari, right? So here. So I have explained the complete RE framework in a step-by-step manner. Then what we have done is we have created use cases with RE framework, without RE framework. So all of these are end-to-end use cases. Then we have converted the framework to work with linear processes. And all of this we have done in a step-by-step manner. So in case you are someone looking to practice the RE framework, you can practice these use cases. Now you might have a question, right? How will I get the data, the framework, anything, whatever you're doing? Everything I have uploaded to my website, which is called mukeshkala.com, right? So in case you are practicing and you want to get all the code, the stuffs, the Excel file, input files, whatever you require, just go to this website, mukeshkala.com, which is my personal website. Here I have uploaded all the content in the download sections. Just go here, download the use cases and practice on your own. That will give you a good hands-on, right? So with that, I will, okay, AK, what is a consecutive exception? Thank you, AK, for reminding me. Okay, I'll quickly cover that as well, right? Okay, I promise that I'll get it at the end. Sorry, I forgot. So whenever you are working in an automation, right? And AK, since you have asked me, I'll ask you the question to you, right? And you have to answer me yes or no, right? So for example, this is a queue. Okay, this queue has got 15 items, right? Now, the 15 items are like this. The first item failed because the browser was not responding. Second item failed, browser was not responding. Third item failed, browser was not responding. You have 100 items, 1000 items in the queue. Now a question to AK. Would you like the robot to process all the 1000 items and fail it with system exception? Or you would say that, hey, Mukesh, if you get at least 3 system exception, stop the process and do not change the status of the other queue item, right? What would you prefer? Okay, and the process after 3, right? That again depends on your implementation. That same setting is available in the config for you, which is called max consecutive system exception. By default, it is set to 0. If I change it to 5, as soon as I get 5 consecutive system exception, I do not mean that first is successful, second failure, then successful. Consecutive means one by one continuously it is failing. It will go and it will simply end the process for you, which is called max consecutive system exception, right? And I think, yeah, here it is, right? Max consecutive system exception also I have explained in the same playlist which I was talking. And then you have all these questions, right? Whatever you are asking, I am getting it from my viewers, right? How do you read 100 plus items from the queue, right? All of that you will find in this playlist. Here is your video, max consecutive system exception. You can watch this video to get more clarity. Okay, so with that, I would stop my sharing.
I have a doubt.
Yeah.
While creating a queue, we will mention one number of retries, right? If any application
Hmm.
occurs, like system exception,
Hmm.
and also there is one config file we will mention like max retry number. The
Yeah.
time which it will consider.
Okay, so who was that? Sorry, I just didn't see your name. Who's that talking? Sorry.
Lucky.
Lucky. Okay. Lucky, I want you to read this, which I have highlighted.
No, no. When we use both, when we use Q, sorry, I mean architecture, which one it will be the first priority?
Q.
Not a config file.
No, Q. And you don't have to again trust me, right? Create a small automation and try, right? But just for the others, right? Whenever you are creating any queue, it is asking you that what is the max retry number you want to give to the queue. Must be 0 if you are using the orchestrator queues. The robot retries the same transaction with the failed system exception must be an integer value, right? So if you are using orchestrator queue, it should be 0. Okay, that means that a queue will always get the priority.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
Can we use both dispatcher and performer in a single REFrame work?
Yes, you can use it. But should you use it? The answer is no, right? I'll tell you the reason for that, right? So this is Lucky. So Lucky, let's say you have written an automation, okay, where you have to read 100 emails, okay, and then you have to process, right? So this goes to dispatcher, and in the performer, you are going to process them, right? Now, this is a single automation. Dispatcher, performer in a single robot. Now, tomorrow, the volume increases to 1 lakh emails. The robot is taking a lot of time. Now, you want to run the performer into 5 robots. Can you segregate it? The answer is no. If you segregate it in 5 robots, what would happen? It will again go and read the dispatcher, right? Because it's a simple process. Is that clear?
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Then your final answer is we should not use both dispatcher and performer in a single REFrame work.
Exactly. If you use it, then you have this issue. You cannot segregate and run it in multiple robots, right? Tomorrow you have a requirement to run the dispatcher in 5 robots. Your dispatcher performer will run in 5 robots, right? If that is a requirement, you can go ahead, but as per recommendation, it should be segregated.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Hey,
there is one
Mukesh.
question on the, yeah.
This is Ravi. I have one
Yeah,
question.
Ravi. Yeah.
Apart from REFramework, can we use config in sequence like flowcharts? Can we use in?
Yes, can you use a config in flowchart? See, I told you, right? How do you use config? How do you use a config in flowchart and sequence, right? This is a here. This is a video which I have created 2 years back because these are the common questions I was continuously getting in my channel, right? And this is here. So to answer your question, yes, definitely you can use it. How do you do it? Here is a video which explains that how do you use the config file in a sequence or a flowchart.
Okay, thank you.
Right? How retry mechanism work in REFrame Work if not working with queues? So that is from Mohit. So Mohit, here is your answer. If you're not using the queue, you use this guy. Max retry number, which is from queue. You just increment this and that works for you retry if you're not using the orchestrator queues. Sir, how to use credential asset in the config file? You cannot. You cannot put the credential asset in the config file. You only can put the name of the credential asset, right? Now, you might be thinking, why is that so? Because I'll tell you, you don't have to trust me again, right? I always say that don't trust me, go to the activities and see it yourself. When you see this guy, which is called init all settings, right? Here, if I scroll down, get orchestrator asset, reading all the assets, see which activity is using. It is using the get asset activity. Now, to read the credential, we are using the get credential activity whose output is the username and the password, 2 values, dictionary, key value pair. right? That's why it is only reading the other assets, not reading the credential type of assets. See, only using the get asset, no get credential is here, right? Previously in the old RE framework, we used to have an activity called get app credential.xaml, which used to do the same, right? Now in the new RE framework, it's not there. So how do you use the get app credential? That video also you will find in this playlist, that how do you use the get app credentials, right? So that also is in the same playlist. Consider we have a dispatcher of 1000 item, performer 5 robots assigned, and after processing the data, send common, how to handle it, how to restrict the fourth robot. I think Kailash, right? This question yesterday also I replied to somebody on email. Okay, fine. So I'll answer that. So fine, let's say there is a process, okay, and this is a very common interview questions as well, right? So there is a process which has got 1000 items to process. I have divided the 1000 item into the 5 different queues. Now I want to send a report that all the items are processed successfully. In ideal scenario, you would have dispatcher, performer, and a reporter robot, which will just send the report as soon as the performer is completed. But sometimes the interviewer is going to ask you, I do not want to write a reporter robot. I want to do it in the same automation. So in the RE framework here, right? How do you know whether this is the last item or not? You are going to go in this one, which is called no data, right? In case you get any exception, you go to no data. In case you have all the items successfully done, there is no items in the queue, that means all the 1000 items are processed. So in the no data here, in the no data, in this part, in the action, here you are going to write that code to send an email. But you have to check a condition that the no data should be coming not from the exception, but all the items are completed successfully. So here you have to mention that the exception item should be nothing and the transaction item is on no data, which means that all the items are processed successfully. Then here in this action, you are going to write the data to send an email. But I would always recommend to use a reporter robot, which triggers dispatcher, performer, and then reporter. Hope that answers, Kailash.
Yes, Mukesh. Thank you.
Awesome. Great, guys. Thank you so much for attending this session. If you have any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to reach out me on my email, right? You have my details, credentials, everything available with you guys. So
Thank you,
yeah,
Mukesh. Thank you
over
so
to you.
much for your time. Thank you so much. Guys, if you have any questions, you can still ask your questions and your
Yeah,
doubts.
yes. Happy
You
to
have the
answer,
chance
guys.
to ask Mukesh.
No, no,
Maybe you
I
all seen in the YouTube, but now you have got the chance to ask him directly. You can utilize
yes.
the opportunity.
Hello, Mukesh. I have
And
one question.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we have dispatcher and performer, and there is one situation in orchestrator. We got system exception in orchestrator. So when it will be retried, means at the end of the process or in between the process?
It will be retried at the end of the process. Okay, so for
Okay.
example, you have got 5 items. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1 successful, 2 successful, third got into exception. What
Okay.
will happen? Immediately the third won't be retried. A new item will be added to the queue with a
Yeah.
status as retry. Then it will fourth, fifth, and then it will go to the retry ones, right? This same we have already covered in one of the video again, right? You can watch the playlist. It is covered, but to answer it, it will cover at the end. Having said
Okay.
that, you as a
Yeah.
developer always has an option to set the priorities of the transaction. Okay, you can say that, hey, this is a high priority item. So that way it will get a high priority and it will be processed first, right? But if you go by the
Okay.
default, not changing anything, it would be tried at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
guys, can you turn on your cameras? We will take one snap. And also in the chat, I have given the feedback form. Don't miss to fill out the feedback form.
Yeah, I would be
It will
happy to
help
receive the
us to.
feedback, right? Yeah,
It will
good,
help
bad,
us.
what are the things? Yeah, happy to receive the feedbacks, guys.
Don't miss to fill the feedback form. Yeah, it is in the chat already.
Hey Vajrang. Yeah, I think it's a daytime for you, right? Could be in morning. You're on mute, bro.
Okay, I was just doing my skating, my exercise, and I'm listening to all of what you're saying.
Awesome, awesome. You have learned it, right? I saw your video where you fall and put some meme on that.
There is. I think I built new Chat GPT, not Chat GPT, OpenAI, where
Uh,
Shahrukh Khan is doing my
I saw
codes.
I saw that. I saw that. It's giving the
It was
response
kind of
also very very good prompt. Yeah.
very good. It's a
Yeah.
very good prompt.
Yeah. Awesome.
Guys,
So over to
guys,
you.
any questions if you want to Vajrang also you can ask.
Yeah,
Hey,
Vajrang
man,
is
this
also
is
here.
not my session. Sorry, this is not my session, boss. But yeah, I'm going to answer anything that you want to do. Go ahead.
One, Vajrang, I have one question. Like, if there are 10 transactions to be processed, after the sixth transaction,
Mm-hmm.
sixth transaction, it will get the system exception. After that, once we get the system exception, we don't want to process the further one, like 7, 8, 9, 10. It should not process it. Bot should stop there only. How can we do
Mm-hmm.
this?
So when you are so the process must not stop, or the next one should not pick up.
Next one, for example, in the sixth transaction, we got some exception like system exception. After that, 7, 8, 9 should be should not process further.
One more question for you. Now, should they be stopped in new state, or should they be by default faulted on all the items?
In the new state only.
Okay, in the new state, if they want to stop, all you can do is whenever there is an exception, you will be having a loop to in progress, like init state, right? The transaction transition, change it to end process.
Okay.
One single step. So whenever there is system exception, it tries to change the status of it, and then it will directly end the process, then going and picking up a new item.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Done with the picture?
Yeah.
Guys,
Yes.
still we have only 14 feedbacks. Please fill out the feedback forms as
Oh,
much
you
as
are waiting
possible.
for the
Hi,
feedback
Vajrang.
to
Yes, yes, we are waiting for the feedback forms. Still, if you did
Yeah.
not miss that, don't miss it.
Vajrang, I heard somebody asking you a question. Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know. I just heard hi Vajrang. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know
Hi.
who's that. Some lady.
Who's that?
Hi, Vajrang, and hi, Mukesh.
Hello.
Actually, I want to know about what is the main differences between UiPath and Power Automate. Why we go with the UiPath instead of Power Automate?
Ah, I want to
Okay.
hear your answer. Vajrang.
You want to hear my answer? I thought I would push the question to you. Okay.
Okay,
I'll answer.
I'll add to it.
Okay, yeah. So two things. Now, Power Automate Desktop actually copied UiPath, or they acquired an RPA platform. They did not start from the new, but UiPath started as an RPA platform from the beginning. So it exactly know what is the niche and how it will proceed. Now, with UiPath specifically, the automations or the activities that you're going to see, upgraded activities, are much faster than automation or anywhere or Power Automate Desktop. Now, if you see here, a simple build data table or simple activities which are not available in Power Automate Desktop are already available in UiPath. Now, think a scenario like this. If you already know something, like if you are learning it from the expert, like Mukesh Kala is an MVP for the 3 years. Now he already knows a lot of things better. Now you will be interested to know more and learn more from him. Okay. Now in the same way, there is already a company that is building on the goal of RPA for the past couple of years, and they have pricing model. There are multiple things that comes into picture. I'm telling according to a learner for getting to an interview only in that manner or in that feature. Now, if you want to learn, what is the best thing to learn? Start with UiPath, because the market is large for UiPath. So more organizations are working with UiPath. specific to RPA space. I'm considering keep it as a line. Now, when you're going with Power Automate or Power Automate Desktop, features are need to be increased. And if you're going with an enterprise level, there are very limitations that you have for an organization to start as an RPA practice and to implement it. Along with that, what else? Mukesh, can you add a couple of points?
Yeah. So see, Sandhya, right? Sandhya. So see, people are moving to my Power Automate. Two reasons. First of all, it is inbuilt in Microsoft Windows, right? You do not need to install anything, right? As a UiPath developer, you need to install Robot, UiPath Studio, connect to Orchestrator, Power Automate available. The second big factor is the license, right? UiPath do have a community edition, but if you go for enterprise license, Power Automate is much more cheaper, right? So people who are just starting their RPA journey, right? So let's say today I start a company, I only have 2-3 automation. I would not like to purchase a very big, huge license of UiPath, right? If I'm not using the community, right? However, Power Automate license is cheaper, but capabilities wise, it do not have that capability which UiPath has, because it has been the market for a long and it has improved, right? See this RE framework, and this I'm talking of something which was there for 5 years back. Now think of the new features which would have included, right? Talk about DU, process mining, task mining. It's much more advanced what Power Automate is doing today, right? So just starting small automation, want to save cost, go for Power Automate. Looking for a long-term solution, scaling everything, UiPath is the correct answer. I
So
hope that answers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
both of
So
you.
for an enterprise platform, if you want to scale to a very big extent and having target as RPA, then go with UiPath because the licensing will definitely have an impact. But if you want to make any small automation, like, okay, I just need to scrape something and I don't know anything, like maintenance will be a major task. And the other three factors that will also impact is the community activities and the forum activities, as well as the existing knowledge that is already there in the internet. Now, if you want to search for something on internet with some error on UiPath, you will be able to get it very quickly because we have built, like all the community members have built it for the past couple of years. Now, for you, for Power Automate, they are starting now. Maybe in 10 years they will reach over there, but it will still take time. And if you are an advanced developer, only then you will learn it. That's few more points. One point that I would like to add to the host. Why don't you just go ahead and add a poll, just a poll in the chat on which one you want to learn more, UiPath or Power Automate. Let's just see. Out of these 42 members, how many are willing to learn UiPath and how many are willing to learn Power Automate? Though this is a session, we are technology agnostic. Like we will be learning things and moving things faster and quicker.
Why we are reading settings and constant sheets separately? Why we are not reading asset sheets also in that for issue?
Okay, so who was that? Praveen, right?
Praveen.
Okay, Praveen. So one question to you, right? Which activity do I use to read the asset?
Get credential asset.
No, get asset.
Yeah, get asset.
Right? Wherever the setting and the constant sheet was just a data table.
Okay.
So that's why that was used with the help of read range, get the data table, add to the dictionary. When it came to the the asset, read everything, use the get asset, then add to the dictionary. Does it answer? Sir, what is the future of RPA? Okay, so you don't have to trust me, right? Go to internet, read the 2023 survey of, I think, Future of Work report 2023. You can also read the RPA developer survey, which was conducted by UiPath, right? It's already there. But for me, I see the future of RPA bright. Not only RPA, I see it RPA plus the additional technologies, right? RPA plus GenAI, RPA plus some other thing, right? But a plus, right? Not only RPA. RPA plus DU, maybe intelligent automation, IPA, not only RPA. Okay. Vajrang, your poll has an answers now.
Hi, Mukesh. I have a question.
Hi, Sandhya.
Actually, I have different formats of invoices from
Mhm.
different vendors.
Okay.
Without AI, how to extract the fields of that invoices?
Okay. So are the invoices in a fixed format?
No, it's a unstructured data.
But unstructured is okay. So it is unstructured and we do not want to, but okay. So, but you can use document understanding, right? The
Yes,
normal extractor. Yeah.
yes. In document understanding, I am using ML endpoint.
Yeah.
So, almost in 100, I have extracted 90% fields.
Sorry, Sandhya, I could not hear the second part of your question, right? So
Actually, I am using document understanding in
ML
the
extractor.
document. Yes, ML extractor endpoint.
Yeah.
I am not creating any custom ML
Okay.
field.
Yeah.
In that time, I am getting some of the fields only. Suppose I have invoice number and invoice date and total. In that, I have extracted only invoice date and total. There is empty field for invoice number. In that time, how to extract that fields without custom skills?
Okay. See, that's something like how would the ML extractor even know, right? Okay, let's go to the step one, right? Have you defined that fields in your taxonomy?
Yes, I have
Okay.
defined.
Right. So that means when you are getting it on the validation station, it would be showing that this field is null, right? In the validation station. Correct?
Yes.
Now, that is the point you have to retrain.
Retrain. Suppose
Right.
I
You
have
have
not 10 vendors, I have 6,000.
Okay.
That time also I have to validate all the fields.
Right. You need to retrain the model, right? If it is a new kind of document which is coming, which is not already retrained, you need to retrain it. However, with the 23.8 release, I think not 7 or 8, I'm not getting confused here. You have something which is called generative AI extractor, which is now inbuilt in the DU. That might have the capability what you are seeing, right? I haven't used it, not a very much expert in the DU, but there is something which is called the Gen AI extractor, which UiPath has introduced in the 23.8 release, right? That might be able to give that, right? But to answer your question, you need to retrain it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mukesh.
What is the difference between PDF automation and document understanding? So, okay, fine. So PDF automation, AK, is simply like reading the data from PDF, and then you might say that the document understanding is also doing the same, right? So let's say today I give you an automation to read the invoices. My company has a different format of invoices. Your company has a different, Vajrang has a different company, RPA Zone has a different company. Everybody is having a different format of invoices, but their data is same. I can do it with PDF automation. The answer is yes, right? I will read the data. I will extract the information. I read that as first name. Somebody write it as name. Somebody write it as first name plus last name. With PDF automation, you do it one by one, extract it, write the regular expression, everything. With document understanding, you just define a template where you say that I want to extract this information, first name, last name, invoice number, and this total from all these invoices. You teach it, and in future, if new documents are coming, the model will automatically get the data out of the document understanding. Scanned PDF, native PDF, OCRs, everything working together for different format of invoices to get you the data. PDF can do it, but you have to write a lot of automations there. And document understanding gives you opportunity to retrain the model. So in case it is not able to find the field, you can just retrain and say that, hey, I am using the attended or the unattended automation where you say that this is not the invoice number, this is the invoice number, and the model will get retrained. Not possible with the PDF. Lot of different, but basic, I think that is. Okay. Awesome, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Mukesh. Thank you, Vajra, for being. Sorry.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, Vajrang.
Okay.
You have cleared some of our doubts also, and we conduct the poll as per you. Thank you so much. I think you've seen the
Thank
poll
you.
result.
Yeah, most of them are already in UiPath.
UiPath,
So they
yes.
are UiPath.
No
So
one
good
can learn
decision.
the Power Automate directly. First, they will learn UiPath, then they will come to the Power Automate.
Yeah. So if you learn Power Automate directly, it will take 6 months. If you learn UiPath directly, it will take 1 month, 2 months to start.
Yes.
So that's the difference. But after 1 month or 2 months, you can learn Power Automate in 1 month.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, guys.